The big question after the latest bombshell revelation in the Russia investigation is, how will President Trump react? We now know that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein specifically authorized the special prosecutor to investigate former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort for potential collusion with Russia or Ukraine. That information was in a partly redacted, informally secret government memo filed in court by Special Prosecutor Bob Mueller late last night. Let's examine the implications of this latest revelation with Republican Congressman Sean Duffy of Wisconsin and Washington attorney and Democratic strategist Scott Bolden. Scott, I want to go to you first. Do you think that this is really justified? Is it going the right direction? And what in the world would Ukraine have to do with a Russia collusion on the election of 2016?
Well, as a former prosecutor and someone who defended people in the Clinton investigations, let me just say this. I not only think it's going in the right direction, but it's the Republicans that have authorized it, not just Rosenstein, but the original order that was given to Mueller for his investigation was to investigate collusion or coordination between these parties either before or after the Mueller investigation. And so Rosenstein, and even under the Code of Federal Regulations, are just following where the evidence takes them.
Okay, Scott,
you can't really argue with that.
Let me put up, actually, I want to go to the graphic here, the original letter that Rod Rosenstein sent to Mueller authorizing his investigation. There are 3 points to this, and if we can put that up on the screen. Number 2 on this point is any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation. And Congressman Duffy, I was pleased and honored to serve with you in the United States Congress. But point number 2 says any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation. There's a lot of things that would suggest that maybe the Democrats that were the ones that were actually colluding. Do you see any evidence that Mueller is actually pursuing that part of the investigation?
Yeah, hey, Jason, it was a pleasure serving with you as well. I mean, you bring a good point, and to Scott, I was a prosecutor as well, and the charge that Mueller received was to investigate collusion or involvement of Russia in the 2016 election, which means they can look at Donald Trump, but they can also look at Hillary Clinton, and the only evidence that we've had come out publicly in regard to collusion is the fact that Hillary Clinton and the DNC colluded through Fusion GPS and Christopher Steele with Russia. They paid Russian informants with double, triple, quadruple hearsay to craft a dossier that then the FBI used to go after Donald Trump. So if you want to look at Russia collusion and Russian influence, you got to look at Hillary Clinton and what they did in crafting the dirty dossier. And from for all intents and purposes, it doesn't appear that Mueller's actually looking at the Hillary Clinton campaign, because I think what we want,
Scott,
Jason,
do you think the congressman has a point? I mean, do you see the evidence, and can you see the frustration from Republicans saying, how come the pursuit of justice is only in one direction? It's a one-way street. Why not go look at what the congressman just laid out?
But Jason, it isn't a one-way street. It is incomparable. The meetings and all the information and the guilty pleas that have come out of this Mueller investigation
have nothing to do with collusion, by the way. They have nothing to do with collusion. They have with lying to the FBI, which is wrong.
They have a direct mandate to look at the coordination between Russia and this and the Trump or rather the Trump campaign. But let me get to Hillary Clinton, because the Republicans love to jump back to Hillary Clinton. Now, if you think Hillary Clinton ought to be investigated, the Republicans run the House, Senate, and the White House. 2 congressmen, or 1 senator and 1 congressman, sent a letter over to DOJ, to Jeff Sessions, asking them to investigate. So if they don't investigate, that means either there's nothing there or they're too busy focusing on the other part of the Mueller investigation.
You do see that there was more than $10 million that went out the door there, right?
DOJ.
Sorry, Scott. Sorry, Congressman Duffy. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't know which one to answer.
That's because you have partisan hacks at the head of the DOJ and the FBI, and that's why I've called and others have called for a special counsel to look at the partisanship inside the FBI and the DOJ. But Scott, it has been rejected. Hold on. I think all Americans will say, what involvement did Russia have in our elections? I'm on the same page as you are. We want to find that out.
Absolutely.
But if you're going to do it, let's not do it in a partisan way. Let's not just look at Donald Trump. There is a lot of smoke, and I think there's fire to look at Hillary Clinton as well. And if you only look at one side of this issue and not the other, that's why so many Republicans feel like it's a partisan hacksmanship investigation.
I deeply believe,
justice.
I do believe this.
What's that?
If I may, forgive me. I deeply believe that if Mueller finds information, whether it's smoke, fire, or evidence or facts that Hillary Clinton somehow coordinated, notwithstanding the conjecture and what Congressman thinks and all the political facts, I think he's got the authority. I think he may have the authority to look at it or to ask Rosenstein the authority for that.
We know for a fact that Hillary Clinton paid Russians to develop this dirty dossier that was used against Donald Trump. That's the only evidence we have of collusion. And for you to say that evidence doesn't exist is shameful.
$10 million.
The bottom line is,
then why won't DOJ
you have enough
investigate
smoke, and I think you have fire. We should look at Hillary Clinton as well and find out what role Russia had.
Scott, you bring up a good point. I think Scott actually brings up a good point.
He's not a political hack.
I do believe that Scott brings up a good point. You have 4 key senators out there. You have Trey Gowdy. You have Bob Goodlatte, the 2 chairmen in the House, calling for a special prosecutor. You have Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows have been calling this for months. You got people like Sean, and they still won't do it. And I got to tell you, to people on the right side of the aisle, it is a mystery because it does seem like it's a one-way street.
But the Democrats aren't afraid of an investigation of Hillary Clinton. We're not. Listen, I'm not afraid of it. I don't think the Dems should. Let the investigation run its course. And I promise you, the Democrats won't be attacking the investigation.
You understand this point very well. You were the chairman of... Jason, you were the chairman of the investigation in the Oversight Committee and investigation in the House. And when you tried to get information from the FBI and the DOJ, did they cooperate with you? Did they provide you the evidence that you asked for as a dutifully empowered individual in Congress to do oversight over those over the Bureau and the agency? No, they didn't provide it to you. They don't provide it to the Intelligence Committee. They don't provide it to Bob Goodlatte and the Judiciary Committee. They're not cooperating even with our investigations, which makes you scratch your head and go, what are they trying to hide from the American people and from the Congress? If they cooperated with us,
Scott Bolton, I want to give you. Scott Bolton, I want to give you the last word, but I do want you to consider this. It is a closed investigation. There have been subpoenas in place since 2016, and still the Department of Justice will not open up the files on a closed case. And I would think that you're very accomplished, and I think a reasonable person would understand how patently unfair it is to the pursuit of justice and oversight to not turn over those documents and allow congressmen on both sides of the aisle to review those documents.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you this. I don't know whether it's fair or reasonable or not, but I don't know whether Republicans are bragging or complaining because you are in control of all 3 houses. And by the way, congressmen and senators have a lot of levers to pull. You can hold them in contempt. You can impeach them. You can force them to turn these documents over. You could even go to court to do it and have a court hold them in contempt. And Republicans just simply have not done it. Now, are you bragging or complaining?
Gentlemen, I got to leave it there. This is not a situation that's going away. I appreciate you joining us tonight on this beautiful Tuesday night.